Avatar: The Last Airbender isn't just a cartoon about elemental powers. Even its buildings tell a story. Honestly, ask any fan about this show and they have essays worth of takes on how and why this show is one of the greatest of all time. But today, I want to talk about its architecture. Look closely and you'll see that even its buildings tell a story about philosophy, identity, and culture. Today, we'll wander through the water tribes and see how their architecture reflects their very soul. Walk with me, shall we? By now, it's no secret that the water tribe heavily take influence from the Inuit culture, a group of indigenous people that inhabit north of Canada, Alaska, Greenland, and even parts of Russia. From their clothes to their weaponry, the inspiration is apparent. But let's dive deeper on how these influences fit in with the narrative. The story of Avatar begins in the Southern Water Tribe, where our hero Aang is discovered by our other two protagonists. From the get go, Katara refers to the entire tribe as the village.
Aang, this is the entire village. Entire village, Aang.
Indeed, a village it is. We see a small wall of ice surrounding tents and one igloo. These tents heavily resemble Carmack's, a tent that is structurally supported by whale bones and driftwood and is covered by animal skin. Partially subterranean, this allows these tents to have a low profile, which lessens the wind impact and also keeps warm. But Avatar tents differ slightly from its original counterparts. But the X-shaped structure made of driftwood also presents some resistance for the wind. Later in the series, we also see the gang carrying a similar looking tent around. Igloos are surprisingly warm. It almost feels counterintuitive, right? But ice, with its microscopical bubbles and high heat capacity, provides an excellent insulator. The human activities that take place inside the igloo provide the heat and keep it warm, around 20 degrees Celsius or 68 Fahrenheit. Not exactly cozy and toasty, but warm enough to survive the Arctic nights. Igloos take advantage of a concept called biomimicry, as they mimic polar bear dens. Biomimicry is especially prevalent in today's architectural discourse, since it is argued that mimicking nature is more sustainable. In case of igloos, once a tribe moves forward, no trace of the tribe and the structures would be left. Therefore, the structure has zero impact on the nature. The Inuits mostly use igloos during winter, so it makes sense that there's only one igloo in the Southern Water Tribe. Seems to me that this igloo serves as a communal space and not a residential one. Similar to the Inuit culture, we see a small community at play here, and the tribes likely live a nomadic lifestyle. With migration and harsh climates, closer and less populated communities have a better chance of survival. Flexibility, mobility, agility, keeping track of inventory, and social cohesion are essential for these people's survival, and that only can be arranged through a small and close community. Although the Southern Water Tribe has been under attack for a century, their architecture shows that the small community isn't just due to the attacks that they were subjected to. It's part of their lifestyle. It's how their society works. And it also suggests that there are likely other villages in the Southern Water Tribe, a fact that has later been confirmed through the comics. This fits in so perfectly with the type of people that the Water Tribe are supposed to be. As Uncle Iroh said,
The people of the water tribe are capable of adapting to many things. They have a deep sense of community and love that holds them together through anything.
the nomadic lifestyle and the sustainable architecture also plays in with the fact that water has a moving nature. And that plays in so well with the type of people that water people are supposed to be. And that's how a simple choice of architecture fits in so perfectly with the narrative. So, The architecture confirms that the water tribe lives a nomadic lifestyle, who sustain themselves as hunter gatherers, who move around the land as one part of the land starts to run low on resources. But that's a stark difference from what we see in the northern tribe, right? They are not built for travel, but for permanence. If the Southern Water Tribe tells a story of movement, the Northern Water Tribe tells a story of permanence. And to understand why humans settled down in the first place, let me tell you another story as we continue this walk. For many years, archaeologists believed that what made us humans settle down was agriculture. And they were right to some extent. See, agriculture allows a settlement to survive and thrive without needing to travel afar. But the oldest man made structures weren't farms, they weren't cities. In fact, they weren't even built for permanent residence. Meet
Göbekli Tepe.
a site discovered in current day Turkey in 1963. The site is over 11,000 years old, one of the oldest man made structures to remain to this day, if not the oldest. But it didn't seem to be built as a city, well, at least at first. Evidence shows that these people lived a hunter gatherer lifestyle, and only later in the chronology are there signs of domesticated cereal. Then why did these people all those years ago build these structures if they didn't intend to live there and only later settle down? It was a pilgrimage site. Yes, the very first thing that brought humans together wasn't farmlands, it was rituals. So once in a while, these nomadic people could gather in one place and honor their primitive religion. And if there is one thing worth preserving and forming rituals around in the Avatar universe, is the two spirits of the moon and the ocean who decided to live among men. Keep that in mind that in the comics we realize that there are villages in the northern tribe as well. But the grand city of Agna the seemingly capital of the water tribe, was built around the spirit oasis. Agna where the once nomadic people of both of the water tribes came together to witness all that is holy to them. Because remember, there used to be a portal between the two tribes 1,000 years ago. The Benders probably moved there permanently to be closer to their source of bending. Hence why the population of Benders is much more in the northern tribe. And with all the Bender power centered in one hub, making grand structures doesn't seem that hard anymore. If anything, it's only logical to build strong and decorated buildings around their holy ground. While the Southern Water Tribe primarily focuses on labor power, the North can build walls, bridges, canals, buildings, all of that, sustained by benders. And here is where we see the disparity between the North and the South. Lack of benders means lack of using ice and water as construction material, and dare I say, ornate material. The South cannot afford decoration. Everything must serve a purpose. Everything must be functional and durable. Useless ornaments either fall apart or holds them back as they move around. Remember, agility is a must in a nomadic lifestyle. But stagnant life allows luxury. It even commends it, because once you settle down in one place, there goes the change of scenery, and you need your decorated pillars and detailed shingles to keep you from going visually starved. We had a small talk about society. Let's go back to architecture of the city of Agna. An outer wall is built around the city of Agna, much like the southern water tribe, but a lot more gigantic. And its primarily use is for defense purposes. You see, the ships can reach into the city with a lock system, similar to that of the Panama Canal, which is a bender friendly way to import ships into a city that is actually built above the water level. The main city seems to draw inspiration from East Asian, Hindu, and somewhat Italian architecture. The bridges and the water canals heavily resemble the city of Venice, but perhaps more so of the Zhujiang water town.
周庄
Zhujiang,
Zhozhuang.
Zhujiang water town. You see, the circular arches that support the bridges are more so a feature of Asian architecture. It is somewhat prevalent in the Italian architecture as well, but I suppose a city that is called the Venice of the East was also known to the creators of the show. Circle domes on top of the towers is also a theme here. Could be an inspiration drawn from the Italian architecture, but more so maybe a trace of the igloos that they used to build in their villages. A stylistic choice, perhaps. Hi, editing me here. I feel like I didn't go into enough details about the circular shape of the domes and igloos in general. You see, East Asian roofs typically have a shape like this, which is a great shape in a rainy environment where you have an abundance of wood. But here we are working with snow. And as you know, if you make a shape like this with snow, it's going to break because snow doesn't do well in tension. So when you have a shape like this and it starts to bend, this side of the shape goes under pressure as it's being compressed, and this side of the shape goes under tension. And this is why we see the cracks. Now, when you have a dome shape, the weight of the ice and snow distributes this way. So the entire shape of the dome is under pressure. Hence why igloos are built this way, and hence why we don't see buildings like this in Northern Water Tribe, but more so buildings like this, because it's only feasible. I hope I clarified something. A tiny detail that I find absolutely amusing here is that the houses don't seem to have doors, but rather curtains and drapes, which makes a lot of sense because what is a door supposed to protect you from in a house made of ice in a city that is crowded with waterbenders? It also ties in with the sense of community that the water people possess, even though that they have adapted to the city life. I talked about this before that the Inuit people use whale bones as structure or material. And here in the city of Agrinkela, we also see whalebone used as support. See, there's a reason why igloos are usually built in dome shapes because ice is brittle and it doesn't do well under tension. It performs best when it's under pressure, hence why the dome shape. Domes are a great shape for ice as building material because it's purely under pressure. So, as the architecture drifts away from a purely pressure based form, it needs to be reinforced. Think of it as the metal in reinforced concrete. Ice needs to be reinforced if it's not going to be used in a purely pressure based system. So, as the architecture drifts away from purely functional to beautiful, we need to start become innovative about the materials that we use. The palace is heavily inspired by Gopuram, a divine and monumental structure that serves as an entrance to Hindu temples, a divinity that possibly stems from the spirit oasis. The word Gopuram is in Tamil and could be translated into king exterior. Its main purpose is to command respect and divinity, but it used to also serve as a watchtower, as we see that it overlooks the entire city in the Avatar universe. Although the chief in the southern tribe lives among the members in a similar looking tent, the north is much more populated and is in need for a central figure of authority. Yes, you can relate this to population. But one can also argue that once a society starts to develop rituals, it will also start to develop classes. A king lives in a palace because he is more high class. Women aren't allowed to use their bending except for healing because they are a lower class compared to men. So on and so forth. This is how a show can use architecture in order to establish a setting in which the story makes sense. The Spirit Oasis is a very unique feature for the Northern Water Tribe. Not only is it a spiritual hub, but the spirit's power allows greenery to grow in its vicinity. So perhaps it can also allow the Northern Water Tribe to thrive in its permanent residence using some sort of agriculture. And yes, according to the Avatar cookbook, limited farming happens during springtime. This theory is also further supported as we see livestock in the Northern Water Tribe. So, with livestock, seasonal agriculture, and bender power for fishing, a city can fully sustain itself during such harsh climate.
And we see how much the South and the North suffered in what was called the Shang era, where basically the four nations refused to trade with each other except through a few select port cities. The North did a bit better because they had access to nearby cities like Bin Air, Jonduri, and Taku, which you can see on the map are a lot closer. The South did have Port Tuga.
And fun fact, there's also a parallel between the Northern Water Tribe and the real world as well. Let us now walk through Hotel de Glace. This Quebec based hotel is rebuilt every year since its architecture and size vary from season to season, and it accommodates guests for a luxurious igloo experience. Not so different from what we see in the Northern Water Tribe, with molding technology, ice blasting, and modern sculpting technology. The process of building Hotel de Glace isn't much different from real life waterbending. And that concludes our walk through the water tribes in the Avatar universe. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. I originally intended to make one video for the Avatar The Last Airbender and then follow it up by one video for Legend of Korra, but there were just so many things that I found interesting about Water Tribe alone that I had to make it a separate video, and I didn't want to scare you away by making my first video an hour long. It's tiny details that really makes one immerse themselves in the world building and even let their mind wander about the day-to-day life about these people that we see in the Avatar universe. Well, I'm a real nerd about architecture, art, cartoons, animations, shows, literature, sugar, spice, everything nice. So if any of that interests you and you like this video, like, subscribe, comment what you want to see later. And if you didn't, I'm honestly happy to have you here with me. Until next time, I'm the Archaeomancer. Thank you for walking these spaces with me. Adieu. Funny in it. Okay, I'm gonna use another word. Fun fact. Okay. Fun fact. I'm sorry. Okay. And fun fact